What's going on, brother?
What's happening? Welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's good to see you.
Likewise. Likewise.
What's up, Leslie? Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome.
I'm curious, how has the homework been for you, Leslie?
Was there homework?
I had you print some stuff out. I don't know if you
Yeah, I
did it.
printed it out, and
Okay.
I have problems with follow through, like
That's
actually
okay.
getting to the other side of the road.
That's okay. Are you
I
are you still here until 8 or you can do 8:30?
7:30. You are my 7:30.
7:30.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Is that the
Cakes,
truth? No, it's 7 to 8, so I'm here for 1 hour.
1 hour. Yeah.
I have to check because my alarm starts going off.
Well, I think they canceled last week, I think you
They
said.
did like at the last minute. So
Okay.
it wasn't, just a thing that came up.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So it's it's at I can move my stuff off my calendar. I can see it.
Cakes, can you share with the group chat that we live? Obviously, I'm not able to text anymore.
You put that in
Yep.
the ACIM one?
This one's ACIM chat. Yep.
Got it.
So, how's your guys' day been going so far? Going pretty good.
Mine's good. I have the ditch mode around my property, which is an hour and 15 minutes worth of work. Um, and then my backyard is that two more times. I've got like 3/4 of an acre that I mow
Hmm.
and got to take it one bite at a time.
Yep, I like that.
Yeah.
Just gotta
Lots.
take it slow, little
Yeah.
by little.
My left knee is bone on bone, so it screams at me when I do that.
Yeah, I get
And
that.
what I notice is that we tend to sling our legs and arms around instead of deliberately picking them up like we did when we were youthful.
Mm,
We picked up our muscles with intention, our bodies, and we moved with deliberateness.
right.
And as you get older, you tend to, let yourself plunk in the chair. Um, when you're tired, you kind of fling your limbs forward.
Right. Right.
And that's learning to change that by being intentional about my muscles and pay attention to them so that I can carry on for a long time with a bone on bone knee.
Yeah, I hear that. Wow.
The more you exercise, the better it is. I've lost 70 pounds in the last 7 years,
Mm,
and it's made a huge difference um, in my knees and my abilities to do things.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely no fun when we're feeling limited in our physical bodies.
Right.
What's up, Tanya? Welcome.
Hey, hi everyone. I went on the Monday link. I was on the Monday link.
I almost did that. You're not
So
alone.
excited. So excited for ACIM again, huh?
I know.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well,
Yeah.
Tanya, I'm really excited for today's lesson for you because I know this is going to be new information for you.
Oh, great.
For Leslie and for Michael, it's going to be a little bit of a review, and then towards the end, Michael, you'll get some new information, and then Leslie, I know you'll have to dip off at that time, so the recording will be available for you.
Okay.
And then I don't know if Leanne's popping in or not. I'm just checking to see if a couple of other people are coming real quick, and then we'll get started. Sometimes people forget what day it is,
Mm.
I forget what day it is. If I didn't write it down every day, I would know.
right?
I make a point of writing it in a journal.
Yeah, I've just gotten used to now just sending the link to people. I'm just like, up somatics, and I'll just send the link.
That's fabulous. That is really great. It's
uh,
also the second of Tammuz in the Hebrew calendar.
cool.
Yeah. This month is significant from Tammuz 17 to Av 9 of the 12 spies being sent out into the land to spy out the land. And they left on the 17th of Tammuz and came back on the 9th of Av with 10 giving an evil report and only 2
Mm,
speaking in faith.
mm.
So that's the
You,
season we're coming on.
you learned that from your Hebrew study course?
I have been, the Lord has had me in the space of Hebrew since 2010.
Uh-huh.
I knew that I always felt that we were Jewish, but at the time, that's the only word I had. Now I have the word Hebrew to mean the other 10 nations, separate from the tribe of Judah. And we went on a search, my daughter and I, and found that we are of the tribe of Dan, which is Scotland.
Mm.
And a lot of Scots, are drawn to their Jewish heritage and they're drawn to that aspect of their life, their roots. And I've just been amazed how many I've met in the 16 years that it's had me going in this direction.
Mm.
Lots of fun.
Right. Lots of sorting out the going through all that.
Well, it just, Chuck Pierce wrote a book about the 12 tribes and the
Uh-huh.
characteristics of them from, what he's gathered from scripture and their team of studiers. And it's just really fun. It's the cyclical, like you say, you're going up the spiral staircase or you're retreating down it. It's like,
Yeah.
no, let's keep that forward motion going. I want to go up, up, up. And the Hebrew calendar is like that. It leads you from one space to the next, growing and climbing higher, ascending the mountain
Cool.
within ourselves,
Right.
seated in the holy place in the mountain that's within our being. I think that's the wildest thing. That's like a dream come true. There's God. He's right here.
Mm.
And he loves me and he delights in me and he thinks I'm the coolest thing. And he thinks that about you too, like you're his one and only most precious child. He delights in how he made you and he didn't make a mistake.
Why are you telling everyone my secrets?
Oh, I'd want to do my job as a fire starter and set a fire going.
Our guest host
Fire.
for today is Leslie.
Come on, baby, light my fire.
You're so funny. What's up, Leanne? Welcome. I think
Morning.
you're gonna really appreciate today's lesson. Uh, Also, too, I sent you a bunch more videos about karma.
Yes, thank you. I saw that. And I did the invincibility thing again last night. That's the one I'm
Nice.
loving to come back to. But no, thank you for those.
Well, I know I just sent you
It's
2 more.
for today.
Yeah, yeah, just now, literally just now.
Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic. Oh, thank you. Awesome.
I told you
Awesome.
I'm gonna keep dripping more and more to you, little by
Yeah.
little.
Isn't it funny? I get to today years old and realize that what I thought I knew about it was really not what I knew or
Yeah,
what I should have
join
known. Yeah. So
join
thank
the
you.
club. Yeah, join the club. That's what
Yeah.
we're all doing. We're all learning how to go back and review everything that we've been taught
Yes.
because we're like, holy crap, like we've all been taught wrong on almost every single
Yeah.
subject.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's and it's cool though because going back and looking at things yourself, no longer are you just listening to what someone else says about it. You're now, being a conscious participant in your own life and how those things weave the greatness of your life. right? And we really start to be able to have the freedom to design our lives the way that we want as we keep learning more and more about this type of information. Or at least that's been my
Well,
experience with creating a 10
I've
relationship with.
also learned, I've also learned too that there's a lot of um, peace in knowing more about it and knowing what karma is and how it works and things like that. Instead of just going through your life going, oh, instant karma, or to actually know what it is and to work with it is a lovely gift. Thank you.
Big facts.
Oh, you could, I would like, can you send it to me too?
I can, but I'm gonna give you the same warning I told Leanne. It's
Oh, no.
another language. It like you might have to pause stuff and then like go back to it,
Oh,
look things up. Uh,
I have
yeah.
Dylan's permission to use Chat GPT.
Yeah, you can use ChatGPT, but even then, like, it's a whole new language. So if you have the
Mm,
space for it, I'll definitely send it to you. But if you're already, chewing
trying
on
to,
the things you're chewing on,
yeah, he
maybe
knows me.
waiting for it. Yeah, maybe waiting for it.
He knows me.
And
You
2020.
probably, sorry, I was going to say you probably have a better understanding, Tanya, than I do anyway. So
No, I
No,
don't know.
sorry, Dylan.
it's a new language for both of you. Yeah.
Yeah, it probably is.
Yeah.
I'm with you,
Yeah.
Liam.
Yeah, what I'm doing too is I'm building a pathway to, like having the understanding of certain terms that this other language uses, and then we can go really depth in some of those conversations, and you won't get lost in the sauce, right? But when you just kind of go into the depths of it, it's really easy to get lost
Mm,
or to hear things in the wrong context, which I think is how most people actually use that information. So that's why I'm so grateful that you guys are kind of like my guinea pigs on this. Taking someone from new, building the development, having the right perception, and then going into those things without collapsing them or bypassing, because that's typically what a lot of people tend to do.
yeah.
And actually, we're going to talk about why people tend to do that. That's going to be on our topic for today, and I will share my screen. So today we're going to talk about some awesomeness around parts and how to work with our parts. Why is this not zooming in? You guys can hear me, right?
Hmm.
Okay, I wasn't sure if I was lagging, but for some reason it's not zooming in like it normally does. I don't know why. I don't think it's working. It's not letting me scroll either. Alright, hold on, let me try something else. For some reason, it's not working on my. Oh, there it goes. Now it did it. Okay, so now it's way too big. And again, this is going to be a review for some of you who've already checked this out. But feel free to stop me and ask questions to, right, we can really go in depth about each of these things here. Oops. Uh, and this is what we're noticing is that the human being is not one voice, right? That there's all these different voices we find inside of ourselves. And these are, I would say, the four main types of voices that could show themselves. And we'll just start here at the center, where the center is the self, right? And at the center is the self. This self is calm. This self is compassionate. This self is connected. This self is curious, clear, present, playful. Actually, let me see which one this is. One, one, two, three, four. 5. Here we go. So this is what they call as the 8 C's and 5 P's of self-energy, right? So when you ask yourself how you feel about a part, the responses that suggest that you're in self-energy all include to these right here. So if you're feeling compassionate, you'll have care with kindness towards that part. If you're being creative, you can see new possibilities with that part. If you're being curious, you're able to understand what that part is saying and wanting to actually understand what it's saying. If you're feeling courage, you're willing to be with what is, meaning you're not trying to fix the part, you're not trying to coach the part, you're not trying to make the part bad and wrong. You're not even validating the part, right? You're not really doing any of that stuff. You're just being with the part, and you're almost like mirroring what it's feeling back to itself, right? And then you're able to be calm and stay present with this part, meaning that you're not consumed and you don't believe that you are the part, right? Which is where we'll talk about blending and unblending in a little bit, and what it means to be blended with a part and what it means to be unblended, which is really this self-energy where you're actually able to nurture and heal these parts, right? Only when we're in self-energy can we do this. For those of you who have been doing this various somatics trainings, another way of saying that, phase 1 of trauma treatment, the stabilization and the being regulated in your nervous system, is the only way to access self-energy. And then there's just a connectiveness where you feel close to yourself and others. You feel close to this part of you, right? You're clear. You can see clearly that this part is struggling, but you're not consumed with the struggle itself, right? You're actually able to nurture the part that is struggling in such a way that they feel confident in the guidance that you're sharing with them, right? They can trust what you're sharing with them, and you start to have this trust within yourself. And those are the 8 C's. The 5 P's comes with presence, so you're here now. You're persistent, meaning that you can stay with it no matter what the part says. You can have perspective, meaning you can see the bigger picture, which a part is only operating from an SLB, a self-limiting belief. The part is the self-limiting belief, right? And it's the unnurtured part, it's the unintegrated part, and why it feels that way. But when we're accessing the 5 P's of self-energy, we can be playful with this part. We can approach it with a lightness, especially when it feels heavy. This part might feel heavy or burdened in some kind of way. And the last one, which I know people say they struggle with, is patience. They can allow things to unfold, and you're not trying to force things to unfold, right? You can be patient. Infinite patience creates immediate results. So you can be infinitely patient with these parts in such a way that they themselves will come up with the answers of what they want to do instead of carrying that burden.
Question, I'm sorry. I think I missed when you said the 5 P's. So these are the 5 P's and all the C's, those are all the parts like that we feel.
No. This is like an indicator of how you know you're accessing self-energy. The self is not necessary. It is a part, but the self technically is not considered a part, which we're going to talk about. So there's the self and then there's parts.
Yeah, okay.
And the parts are like the wounded ones of us, the protectors, the managers, which we're going to go over in a second. But
Okay.
this 8 C's and 5 P's is like a way of you knowing, oh, I'm in the self-energy right now, which is the part of you that can heal and nurture all these other parts.
Oh, so the compassion it's not a part, it's us like
This is showing you that this is like if you had a checklist, right? If you're accessing compassion, you're in self-energy.
Okay.
If you're accessing creativity, you're in self-energy. If you're being curious about it, you're in self-energy. So this is like a checklist. Like if you have these 8 C's or 5 P's, even if you only have 2 of the C's and 1 of the P's, you're in self-energy. That's showing you that you're accessing self. But if these aren't showing up for you, and let's say that you're consumed or blended into the part, then you won't be accessing these. You might like dislike the parts, or you might be at war with the parts, or you might be like they're disgusting and ugly, right? You'll have all these other emotions and feelings about them that won't be these.
I resonate with that when you said if you're not, you might be like not disgusted, but that means when you're that way with the part, you're not in the self energy.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. And that's what this is showing, that when you feel this, all of these, then the part can feel yourself, right? And that's where it receives the healing. But if you feel another way, then the part is in the way, right? If you don't feel these, right, then you can tell a part is actually speaking in that moment. It's actually speaking, and you're so blended with the part that it's not aware of self.
It's not aware. Like
And
if
then
you're
the
numb,
idea, that's like being dysregulated, right? When you're being triggered or activated, you're not aware of the self. But when you stabilize and regulate yourself, you're then aware of the self, and you're aware of these parts. And the self and the parts can talk with each other. But we're going to talk about how to do that in a bit.
Okay.
So notice that the self is our center, and when the self leads, the self heals. That's how it goes.
Yeah.
And it's our natural state. So we return to it through awareness and curiosity and compassion, which we're learning how to be with these parts, like the judgment part, for instance, the critical part of us, right? Sometimes we think that's us, but it has this self that is just waiting to create a dialogue with it. Question, Leanne.
Yeah. Sorry, my brain's not working. With the eight C's, you're talking about for example, connectedness and clarity. You're not talking about the way we treat those around us, are you? You're talking about what's within
That
ourselves.
actually, yes, I'm talking about what's within yourself, but you can also see that that's the same. If you're this way with others, you're accessing
Oh,
self. If you're not,
yeah.
a part is speaking and driving the boat.
Okay. Yeah. Thank
Yeah, so
you.
it's both, but
Thank you.
this is considered IFS, an internal family system. And notice it's an internal family system, but there's no difference between internally and externally, right? We live in a holographic reality, so we will project it out, right? Which is what we're talking about even with the Course in Miracles, right? The projection are these parts, which they call the ego, but we're kind of going a little deeper into the different aspects of what's going on within the ego, and how the ego can be consciously aware as we're working with these various aspects of ourselves. Leslie, question. You're muted, by the way.
I pushed that button. You said that IFS is internal family.
Systems.
That's what I thought, but I didn't want to write it if it wasn't right.
Yep, I have it right up here.
That is what I've learned to be parts work.
This is parts work, correct? Yep.
That's what I learned it as. It's a different name. IFS is parts work.
This is parts work, correct? Yep.
Yay,
And it's also considered focusing as well. There's another somatics thing that came before IFS called focusing, and they do the same thing. They talk about sensory motor things, that like how your body posture is, but they also do parts as well. So they kind of have both of those teachings integrated, where IFS kind of took out sensory motor, and it just kind of kept this model and built on that.
Okay.
And right now we're talking about self, and we're talking about parts. There's like other aspects which we'll go over probably in another one. We're not going to focus them on this call. This call we're just going to really focus to the self, and then these three main parts right here. Before I go into these next parts, did anyone have questions about the first slide, or the 8 C's, the 5 P's slide? Let me go back to it. This one right here. Anyone have questions or?
Like that one. I wrote all that down. That's great.
Yeah, it's good stuff, right?
Yeah, because when I find myself not in the C list, I'm learning how to pull myself into the C list.
Absolutely.
What
Yep.
the C list is, then you know where you want to go.
Absolutely.
And, I do really good if you give me a path to walk on. I want to be compassionate towards myself and
Uh-huh.
creative within myself. I want to be curious about what I'm going through in life.
Right. Yeah, totally. And we're going to talk about that. Absolutely. How to do that. It's easier said than done, right?
Right? It is.
Okay, so we're talking about this self. We're talking about the 8 C's, the 5 P's with the self, right? And then we're talking about that how the self does not fight parts. This is so key. So if you feel like you're at war with parts, then it's parts fighting parts. It's not the self that fights parts. The self listens to parts. The self helps parts heal. And then there's these 3 main parts. So every being has parts. As long as you have a body, you're dealing with these parts. And some parts carry pain. The parts that carry pain we call the exiles. The parts that carry pain are the exiles. They're the ones that carry the wounds, these exiles. They're the ones that carry the fear, the shame, the grief, the rejection. They're the ones that feel the loneliness, and they're the ones who are hurt. This is what everyone's trying to get to for healing, are the exiles. This is like when the self connects with the exile, this is where the rewiring process happens. You remember we talked about pendulating from phase 1 to phase 2, from phase 1 to phase 2, and going back and forth until a purge shows up? That's this self speaking to the exile. That's that equivalence.
Is that when I said myself needs myself now?
Exactly. Myself needs myself. It's your capital self needs, it's your lowercase parts needing your capital self. Yeah.
Yeah.
Myself needs myself. Yep. Absolutely. Which, Michael, we'll make sure you have that. It was a really great nugget Tanya dropped. And then I made like a
I look
little
at it every
video.
day.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
I'll
Yeah.
make sure you have it, Michael. Yeah, it's really good. Okay, so questions about the self not attacking parts, the self listening to parts, and then this exiled part, the one that carries the pain. Any questions about that? And again, this is the part that most people can't get access to, and we're going to talk about why. And I think of it like these managers and these firefighters, they're like, if your exiled was the quarterback, these are like your frontline defense. So they're like protecting the exile. They're protecting the quarterback, right? And they're making sure nobody touches him, nobody sees him. And then they have these 2 protectors have different ways in which they protect. So the exile part carries the pain, right? And then you have another part that prevents pain. And this is called the manager part, the one that prevents pain. And this manager part that prevents pain is really, is trying to prevent the wounds that the exile is carrying from being activated. So this is where, like, you remember those survival strategies around being in control, right? That could be like a manager, right? Avoiding risks, right? Being comfortable, that could be a manager, right? So these managers, they're the ones that prevent pain. They're the ones that have us avoid certain situations in certain ways, so that way the exile never gets hurt again. Or the exile, so the exile not only doesn't get hurt again, but doesn't activate the hurt that's there. It kind of like, it manages everything. We would even say that these are like coping strategies. The manager, they're like our coping strategies. Both of them technically are.
So it doesn't fix the wounds, it just stops you being activated by them.
It stops the wound from being activated. Yep.
Right, yeah.
So this is like, oh, that person broke my heart. I'm never gonna trust again. And this is the part that doesn't trust. Because if we trust, what would happen? We'll get hurt again, and it's to prevent pain. So it'll never. This is the one that oaths we're never gonna trust. we're always going to be critical about, right? We're always
And
going to be on edge about.
that's the manager or the exile?
That's the manager that's
Okay,
protecting the exile. Yeah.
protector. I know this part very well
Uh-huh.
in myself. I know my exile, at least ones I see, and I
Uh-huh.
know my managers. It's like I was going, I recognize that, Dylan.
Yeah. And something too that now you can recognize that's a part. You could say something like, "Oh, I see you, manager. Can you please take a step back so exile part can receive healing right now?"
Oh, I'd love to have those words in my mouth.
Well, this manager part's gonna be like, "Who the fuck are you to say that?" Right? And they might not trust you. So then you could say, "Well, what do you need in this moment to feel trust?"
Yeah.
Right? So then you're starting to understand the manager, because if it doesn't take a step back, maybe it needs something to be able to take a step back, and then healing can happen. This shows up with cold plunges. We call them the inner walls. This shows up for ceremony. We call them the inner walls. It shows up for just about anything that's going to have someone step out of their comfort zone. That's going to have them step out of their box. Manager parts get alerted. They're like, prevent the pain, prevent the pain.
Right.
Okay, any questions about managers? And self can work with managers. That's the part that says, can you take a step back so exile can receive healing? Right? That's the part that's, upfront and confident about, trusting its own guidance, its own self-led ways of being, and then how to actually work with these various parts of ourselves. Okay,
And
question.
we all have all four, is that right?
There's more to it, but yes. This is just like the
So
start of the
basically,
map, but yes.
So you're
Yeah.
not one or the other. You're
No,
a
no, and
combination of.
you're actually neither of these. It's like you're technically the self, but it's like
Yep.
these other parts of us are also parts of us.
Okay, yep.
And
Got
the
it.
idea
Thank
is
you.
like right now they're kind of all over the freaking map. We call it the itty bitty shitty committee. But the idea is to have these parts to have the self start being nurtured of these parts, so that way they all have their arrows pointing in the same direction, right? So, for instance, this manager that's protecting the exile to never trust again, so it doesn't receive healing, right? Maybe this manager then gets a new role because it talks with the self, and the self supports it in such a way that it realizes, wow, this trust issue I'm keeping up isn't actually supportive for your relationships. And maybe it starts to protect being vulnerable, like how to be vulnerable in relationships, right? So it's like these protectors, they don't go anywhere, but they start to get when they get unburdened, they get new roles. And this is like what we're learning is both how they're operating, how they're functioning, and then how to start to unburden them, which we'll keep going in the next slides on how to do so. Questions about managers before we move into firefighters? Okay, so firefighters, these are the parts that stop pain. So these are the ones that rush in when pain is present and they try to stop it immediately. So these are the ones that are our addictions, right? Those guilty pleasures. When things get a little uncomfortable, we go eat some sugar, right? Or maybe we dissociate.
That's our firefighter.
These are the firefighters. Yep.
Okay.
These are the
That's
parts that they stop pain. It's because pain's now active and we need to stop it, right? So we escape it in some kind of way.
yeah.
And we'll keep going down the list of more in the next slide. I'm just kind of introducing them, but in the next slide, we'll like highlight more about how they speak to one another and how they speak in general. Because this is actually the question that we're really exploring today is who is speaking? How are they communicating? And what are they trying to protect? And if you can see who is speaking, how they're communicating, and what they're trying to protect, then they meet the self actually starts to undo these reactions. This is where we start to have responses show up. Right? So it's like, how can I meet these parts in such a way without another part jumping in? And that happens, and we'll go into that. And something that's important to know is that, as these firefighters stop the pain once it's activated, right? And how this manager tries to prevent the pain, none of these parts are bad. The exile part that's holding the wound, this part's not bad either, and they're not broken. But the part that says, I'm broken, which one is this? An exile, a manager, or a firefighter? The one that says, I'm broken.
Exile.
Yeah, exiled, right? So you might even
That's me.
hear something like, I'm broken, but then you might hear a part that says, no, everything's fine. Don't think that way. Right? Why is that? Well, I'm broken, there's that pain, and then it's like, okay, firefighter comes in. No, you're not, you're good. Right? Get out of that pain.
Right?
Right? So we could see that these managers and firefighters, they appear to be protecting the exile, but we can also see that they might be hurting the exile, especially the manager that's a critical one. But the important part that we're learning is that they're not bad and they're not broken, that each of them developed for a reason. They are there for a reason, and that each one of them is trying their very best to help us all survive, all parts of us survive. This is how you know they're a part, because they'll say, I'm protecting the self. Each one of them will actually have that understanding that they're protecting the self, even though realistically we see that they're actually creating trouble. But that's not what they believe they're doing. Questions about this before we move on?
So the one that carries the wounds of shame, the grief, the guilt, and the hurt, that's kind of protecting the self in some way, or it's just
Well, the shame, the grief is the exiled. So that's the one that's hurt.
yeah.
And then you might have your coping strategies to not really feel the hurt fully, right?
Yeah.
And then that's what keeps the whole game in play.
Yeah.
I think my exile tried to protect myself. It took on all the shame, all the burden. It was the scapegoat. It was the one who took all of the wounds and said, I deserve it. I deserve it. I deserve it. I deserve to be punished.
The only reason why we don't say the exile is a protector is because when you meet that part and then you nurture that part, healing shows up.
Okay.
And that's different than the managers and the firefighters, because when you do this with them, you could still have the hurt. Healing won't show up. It's like you have to go to the exile for this healing to happen. And these are the two front row people that you got to get through. And there could be multiple managers or multiple parts protecting the exile. But once you get to the exile, it's like a little infant child that is innocent and just crying out for support. It's not really protecting anything. It's actually just waiting for love and healing and nurturement.
Did I
It's like a
hear
little
you
kid.
use a football analogy just a minute ago?
I did, yeah. Your exile's the quarterback.
My brain is connecting that information now. It's like,
Okay.
oh, that's what he was talking about.
Yeah.
Sports. Okay, these are your linebackers who are protecting the quarterback.
Correct.
Now I get it.
Yep.
Hurrah!
Yep. That's correct. Yep. Yep.
Now I get it too.
Yeah, and you wouldn't
Yeah.
see the quarterback as a protector. You see the quarterback as the one who scores the
Exactly.
points,
Now I
right?
understand completely,
Yeah.
because it was like when I said that, it went sports, Leslie, sports. And I went, sports? Who's talking sports again? Oh, yeah, Dylan just talked sports. What was he talking about? And all those pieces came together in this whirl.
So good.
Thank you, ladies.
Meanwhile,
Welcome, ladies.
my eyes are glazing over because I have no freaking idea what you're talking about. All I know about football is Taylor Swift.
It's
Yeah,
like
I'll find-
rugby, where
I'll find another analogy. Maybe sports isn't a good one.
Can I ask another one of my famous ridiculous questions? I'm an exile, like uh, clear as day. When you're an exile and you're carrying all this shame and everything, are you doing that to protect yourself as
We
well? Like, so a firefighter does this to protect the exile. Is the exile taking these actions in order to protect themselves, or is it where they have found themselves to be? I don't know if that makes sense.
Something that I know is the exile can't protect itself. It's like a wounded, hurt child, like a wounded animal that can't protect itself. But the managers and the firefighters definitely do what you're describing. Yep. And sometimes they're at like war with one another, it appears. It looks like they don't even like each other, it appears. But they also might not like the exile too. They might actually like criticize the exile and belittle the exile for feeling hurt. Right? So it's interesting. It's a really interesting mixed bag because they think that that's protecting them. Right? Like for instance, I had
Yeah.
one firefighter that I was working with where this firefighter's role is to put down the exile so that way more pain doesn't show up. It was like a way to numb the exile, right? And every time that he would make a mistake, this whole thing played out, right? And then that's what we're working on is both the protector parts in such a way that he can then actually start connecting with the exiled part without feeling like you have to judge it and all that stuff because that's just a part that's doing that and it's not really the self coming to him, right? And that's where actually we're going to start learning really right here how they speak and then how we can start unburdening them, right? Because this is really really important because every part has a positive intention to what they're doing with that suffering and what they feel is the best way to deal with that suffering. So even when a part creates suffering, it's literally doing this because it's trying to help in the best way it knows how to. Which I'm sure you guys heard that from a saying with your parents that if they knew better, they would do better. Right? And this is the same with our parts, right? If they knew better, they would do better. And that's ultimately the role of the self. The self is to nurture these parts so that way they do start to know better, right? And again, just starting at the exile is the one that carries the pain. So this is the one that has the fear, has the shame, has the grief, has the loneliness, experiences the rejection, experiences the abandonment, has the worthlessness. And the exile's inner message is, please don't hurt me again. Now, if someone says, please don't hurt me again, do they sound like they're protecting themselves? No, not at all. That sounds like a desperation, right? So these exiles typically are the desperate ones, right?
Instead of saying you will not hurt me again, you're saying
That
please don't.
that might that might be like a firefighter, right? You will not
Right.
hurt me again, right? That's
Yeah,
a totally different energy
that's the
for sure.
difference. Got it. Yeah.
That's a
Absolutely.
Thank you.
great catch,
Thank
Leanne.
you.
I
Yeah.
caught that.
Look at
Man,
me go.
it's like, come on. Yeah, yeah.
I missed it.
She was
Say it
just
one more
saying,
time, Leanne.
What was that? Sorry?
Say it one more time.
Tanya missed what
I
you
can't remember
said.
what I said. I can't remember what I said.
Instead of the exile saying, please don't hurt me again, Leanne was
Oh,
saying the
yeah.
firefighter would say, you will not hurt me again,
And
right?
so
Oh.
that's the difference between a firefighter and the exile and how you think it's about the pain, but it's the way they approach it.
Very
That's so
different.
key.
Very
Wow.
different. Absolutely.
That helps
Because,
me to see the
yeah,
part.
because the exile carries the pain, the firefighter stops the pain.
Mm.
And the manager prevents the pain, right? So there's one that carries the pain, there's one that prevents the pain, there's one that stops the pain. And the one that prevents the pain is the one in control, like we mentioned. This is the one that people pleases. This is the one that has a sense of perfectionism, meaning that you have to do everything perfectly, right? Not that you be perfect, because you already are whole, complete, and perfect, but you have to do everything perfect, which is an impossibility. So this manager is literally saying the perfectionism in which you do things has to be perfect, although I know it's impossible. And that's so you don't feel hurt again, right? Because maybe making mistakes is painful. So you do everything perfect so that way you never make a mistake. And usually that's where analysis paralysis comes in, because we would rather not do it than do it wrong, because then the
Come
exile gets
on.
activated.
You're reading my mail.
Mm.
I tell people when we go over this stuff, it's like we bugged your room, but I promise you we didn't.
Right.
Yeah, these are just universal human experiences. Right, but this is the part that tends to seek achievement, right? The one that are human doers, right? They achieve, and never feel satisfied, even with their achievements, because it's the whole idea of the human doer is to do but never be satisfied. This is the manager part, right? And it's literally saying, let's make sure that that never happens again. That pain never happens again. So they stay hyper vigilant, and they're looking at cues of threat even if they don't exist. And these manager parts tend to be overthinking and very judgmental.
I know her.
Yeah. And there could be a part for each. You can have a part that's just in control of being in control of controlling. You can have a part that's just people pleasing. Its whole role is just to people please. You can have a part that's just to judge, right? So you could have each of these could be its own individual manager, or you can have a manager that does all of the strategies, right? And that's where it gets really fun, because what we're learning in this model is how to literally unblend each of these, how to be in such a relationship with each of these parts that they're sharing all this information with us. Now we're just using that information so that way we can get to the exile and have the self heal it. Everyone who's depression resistant, treatment resistant depression, and right, people who got all these different things going on, you could see that their managers and firefighters, they have like thousands of them.
Yeah.
And then it's like as soon as you get through one, it's like another one's lined up there. So they got like rows and rows and rows and rows of line of defenses before you get to the exile. Right? And I'm sharing this with you because it gets super complex with the parts, but the process is super simple, which is right here at the bottom. And then we'll go into the firefighter. The most inner conflict, right? Most inner conflict looks like this. An exile gets activated, meaning there's an event that happened that triggers you or activates you, right? There's a catalyst that activates the exile's pain. And then a manager comes in and tries to prevent that pain from being experienced. And then the firefighter comes in and extinguishes it. And then the cycle repeats. And this is literally what they do the whole time. This is what we call our coping strategies, right? And what we're obviously noticing with the firefighters is these are the parts that stop the pain. So they're the ones who get angry. They're the ones who numb. They do doom scrolling. They use food as an escape. They use alcohol. They dissociate. They have all the avoidances possible. They do this. They try to escape the situation. They're escape artists, firefighters. These are the ones that people, when they do plant medicines, and then the plant medicines experience, like something comes up that's very uncomfortable, that would heal the exile, the firefighter comes in and says, nope, I'm not seeing that, and then they drift off into La La Land.
Yeah, I know that
Right?
one too.
And then they literally come up and out of their body, and they go into like up in the head or up in La La Land. And then once we like bring them back into the body and brings them back into this thing, then they feel the pain of the exile again. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is so much. And then a manager might come in and overanalyze what's happening. Oh, I'm so fucked up. And right. And then, and you're just kind of nurturing these different parts, and you're understanding them and letting them know that they're seen and they're held, and they're recognized for the beauty in which they are, right? We're so grateful for these parts and we're so thankful for these parts because they have made you the person you are today. They had kept you alive and breathing, and you didn't die because of them, right? So each part that reveals itself, we say, Oh, hello there, manager. Thank you so much for letting me know about this hypervigilance and judgment that you have about this exile and this firefighter. And we're saying, oh, hello, firefighter. Thank you so much for coming in and dissociating right in this moment when things got a little bit too intense. And I don't know if we need you right now. Can you just take a step back for a moment so we can just be with that just a little bit more? Right? And then the firefighter will even say, fuck you, no. Or he'll say, yeah, absolutely. I trust you. Let's do it. Right? And if it says, fuck you, no, right? Then you just kind of create this dialogue with it of understanding and, just seeing what it means. But the goal, again, is not to eliminate parts. It's never to shame parts. And it's never to fight with parts. It's always to understand them. We understand why they're angry. We understand why they're escaping. We understand why they avoided. And we thank them for playing their role. And then we ask them, are they open to healing in this moment? Because maybe it's a no, that they're not. Maybe they need to build more trust with you. So then you could say, well, what is it that, you would need in order to feel trust from me? What would you need in order to feel safe with me? And they will tell you. These managers will tell you. These firefighters will tell you. And the exile definitely is crying out and will tell you. And as you hear that information, the self adds it. So when self leads, managers relax. And you guys, every single one of you on this call have experienced this with me in some capacity or another. Where maybe some tension came up through a conversation. And then because self was leading, you relaxed. And you're like, oh, maybe this isn't so bad. Maybe I don't have to be so hyper vigilant and analyze every little thing that's being said, right? It's like, I can put my hair down a little bit. And then same with the firefighters, they can stand down. They're like, oh, this is a safe space. I can actually let myself be revealed and not be punished, right? And then the exiles can be cared for. And then the whole system
And,
becomes more integrated.
and is that when you find out that it had nothing to do with a watch?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, got it. No, thank you. Thank you. Got it. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, because you're never angry for the reasons you think you are. And as soon as that anger firefighter comes down, you get to the exile and you see what it's really about. And then when you heal what it's really about with the exile, poof, now you're rewired. The firefighters still
Right.
exist, that exile still exists. You might even have
Yeah.
situations that might poke at that abandonment, and you might be like, wow, how am I doing with this part of me? And he will tell you. If he's feeling more abandoned, it's because you abandoned him. If he feels like, oh, I remember that abandonment button would get pressed, it's not even being pressed right now. You can tell you were with this part that was abandoned or felt abandoned, and he doesn't feel that, or she doesn't feel that way anymore. This part now feels
Right.
nurtured and it won't get triggered, right? It won't go into its inner conflicts, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
can parts get triggered by certain foods you eat, I think? Like sometimes,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Especially if there's some hurt around it in some kind of way, absolutely.
Yeah, like caffeine. Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I would say our relationships to anything is wrapped around these categories. Our relationship to our body, our relationship to the earth, our relationship to sacraments, our relationship to pharmaceutical medicines, pretty much everything that we are in relations to. These are in some kind of dynamic of a play for sure. Okay, questions about this before we go into the next one. It's making sense?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Cool. So the next one, obviously, a lot of you have been here for the 5 channels of awareness, and we got to spend some great time with that self-inquiry practice. And now what we're expanding into is that we're learning how these 5 channels of awareness, first we're just seeing how they function, but now we're seeing how parts are actually speaking through these 5 channels of awareness. And what most people think is that parts only speak through thoughts. And obviously we know through thoughts are our mind channel, right? Which is what's the story of the meaning I'm making around these things. thoughts, right? Which is like, I'm not good enough. Nobody understands me. I need to stay in control. Something bad's going to happen. That other shoe's going to drop, right? This is literally a part that's speaking through that, but they don't only speak through thoughts, right? Because parts can communicate through the entire body-mind system. So that means the sensation that you feel in your chest. What do you notice in your body? Oh, I have this tight chest. You can say, where do you notice that in your body? Right? Like, is it up the upper part of the chest? Is it the lower part of the chest? Right? And you can actually see if this is a part. Like, how long has that tight chest been there? And maybe a part shows up and reveals itself, and you could see, wow, I've had this for 35 years, and you're like, wow, okay, it's bringing me up to this memory with the imagination channel of something back then, right? Which we know in the imagination channel is also the memory channel, right? This is where we get those inner pictures, and where we're able to track time, right? Past, present, and future, where we maybe see different symbols and dreams from the things that we're noticing, right? Whether it's in our imagination or whether it's in our actual memory of this is what I experienced. So if we only listen to thoughts, we miss most of the conversation. So that's where, with this 5 channels of awareness and these inquiry practices, we can essentially see how a part could be operating through any of these, whether it's a clenched fist, a tight jaw, or whether it's through anger or joy even. We can actually see that it's also a part.
Gotta go.
Bye, Leslie. Thanks so much for being here. So the practice, as we've noticed with the 5 channels of awareness, is ask questions to notice those channels of awareness and to stay curious about what we're noticing, and then to keep we would keep going down the different channels, right? And we're not really asking, like, how do I get rid of this? We're really asking, how is this part trying to communicate with me? So every part has a voice, and then these 5 channels are really just what helps us hear it, and what helps us to really have this dialogue with it, so the self can heal these parts and nurture these parts, and they can relax and drop their defenses. Notice how I said drop their defenses, and their defenses aren't forced, right? Because they just naturally drop when they're seen. So a part may enter through any channel. Sensation may lead to an emotion may lead to a memory may reveal a part, and a thought may reveal a protector, right? And we're just noticing, like, especially the different voices of how they're speaking. Okay, questions about this?
I have a question, Dylan.
Sure.
When we get to the mind thoughts and, we're asking, what is this part saying? I think I'm having a little bit of a struggle with whatever comes up, being able to just let that come up objectively and not make us another further story out of that, right? Or not maybe necessarily believe that thought, that story that's coming up, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so you're saying, when you're checking out these stories, that they might not be accurate stories.
Well, maybe they are accurate, but I don't want them to be accurate, right? Like, if we're looking at these thoughts that that are listed here, these thought statements, right? Like, I don't want any of those to actually be accurate. I mean, maybe they are, right? Like, let's say I have a control issue, right? But I guess what I'm saying is to not attach to that thought, because I don't want to have a control issue, or I don't want to believe that I'm not good enough, if that's making sense.
Right. Yeah, I get what you're saying. And, like, the self part of you doesn't actually believe that.
Okay.
The self in you knows that that's not true.
Got it.
But now the part that's saying it doesn't know that.
Okay.
So what we're doing is we're getting that part. We're first noticing that, oh, that's a part, right? Because we know the self doesn't believe that.
Got it. Okay.
And then once we're able to unblend from, oh, okay, that's a part, then the self can start to dialogue with this part in such a way where it could receive healing. It could, especially if it's a protector part, it can then get to the exiled part. Once that exiled part is healed, think about it. These protectors have to do a new role now. So maybe instead of protecting you from feeling uncomfortable about leaning into the control and unworthiness, right? Maybe you're able to lean into it, investigate how it's not true, and then poof, that part stops playing that thought. And then it'll have new thoughts, like new things will show up.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's an interesting transition between letting come up what wants to come up and be revealed, but then gently maybe reverting back to the self or acknowledging that the self doesn't truly believe that, right? That kind of that transition of not forcing it down, letting it come up, but not attaching to that, right?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Actually, we're gonna jump into this because I think it'll help answer your question, and then we'll scroll back up to the actual, like, how the parts communicate.
Cool.
Right? But self energy, who's listening, right? This is the one of the most important questions in the IFS model, because when you find a part and if you ask, how do I feel towards this part? Your answer tells you whether self is present or another part is speaking. So this right here, how do I feel towards this part? This is going to be like a question you guys like memorize and like ask over and over and over. How do I feel towards this part? So Michael, even the example you gave about the one that feels unworthy or that has the control stuff, you could see it. Well, how do I feel towards this part? Right? If you don't feel the 8 C's, 5 P's, okay, self isn't there, but, and that's really what it says here: curious, compassion, calm, open, interested, understanding, patient, connected, right? So the self would sound like, I'd like to understand this part, right? So how do I feel towards this part? I'd like to understand this part. Or it would say, I'm glad it's showing me this, right? There's a glad, a gratitude, a thankfulness. I wonder what this part needs. Or we might say, thank you for trying to help, part. Or tell me more, right? Because we're interested in what it's sharing. These are like the signs that you are actually unblended from this part and self is like leading the ship. Now, a sign that another part is present when you ask, how do I feel towards this part? You might feel frustrated with that part. You might feel annoyed or impatient with that part. You might feel overwhelmed or desperate to fix. You could feel judgmental and even afraid of that part. So if these things are showing up where you say, how do I feel towards this part? And you say, oh, I hate this, or I hate it even, or I want to make it go away, or this is ridiculous, you shouldn't feel that way, or oh my God, that happened so long ago, how can you still be ruminating on this, right? Or why am I like this? This shouldn't be happening this way, or just get over it. All of these are signs that a part just spoke. And then if you're seeing this, how do I feel towards this part? And then this part shows itself, right? Okay, now we're learning, okay, I'm not in self. And we get to unblend ourselves. So like the pathway to really noticing this is because when you're blended, the part becomes you, which Leanne was hinting at that. What if I am my manager? I think she was saying something like that, where I am anxious, right? I am broken. I am angry, right? These are what we call blended states where that is a part speaking right out of you. And these are so obvious because I would say most of us probably live in blended states. We just don't know that these were blended, right? We think that these are us, right? Or the fullness of us, right? We think it's the fullness of us because they are parts of us, but they're not the fullness of us. And then when we're self-led, we're relating to that part, right? Or we're able to say, oh, a part of me feels anxious. A part of me feels hurt or broken. A part of me feels angry. And if you're not able to say a part of me, blah, 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 then you can tell it's not self-led. Right? You can tell that if you're consumed by it, another way of saying this is that if you're activated or you're triggered, you're essentially in a blended state. Unless if you get activated and then you have that pause where you can regulate yourself and kind of just be with the energy of that activation, then you're being self-led, which we all know this as phase 1 of regulation, to regulate yourself. When you're regulated, you're self-led. When you're dysregulated, you're blended, right? And then pendulation is, using our breath sound movement to attune to our bodies. We can even use touch, which we might not be able to get into tonight. Maybe we'll go over it the next time. Actually, let me just scroll down to it real quick because I think it would be helpful. This right here, and I'll make sure that everyone has all these slides too, so you can go over them. Even though we might not go over everything tonight, I guess I didn't realize that this is a much longer lecture when I put it together. I try to keep them to 90 minutes though. But this right here, these are this is called the 5 practices to the 5 channels of awareness. So you'll see that each of these is a practice, and you'll see awareness is the first step, which is kind of what you're asking about, Michael, with the part and the blendedness, right? It's to become aware of when we're activated, how we're activated, if it's a part, and then how to get into our breath and start to connect and feel into this part in such a way that we're not consumed by it. Right? So the awareness is like the first step to this doorway, right? This is the part of you that knows something is happening, this awareness part. So a lot of us, we're actually building our somatic awareness. We're becoming aware of, have you guys ever heard of the term introception? So I maybe saw one say yes, one say no. No. So there's like perception to see outside of you, and then there's interoception to see inside of you, right? To see what's going on within yourself. And that's what this first awareness one really highlights, right? And we're really just asking, like, what am I aware of right now? Which you guys might hear me say, what are you noticing? Right? And I say this all the time after we read something. What are you noticing as we read those 2 paragraphs, right? And I'm doing this because I'm actually teaching this right here, this practice of awareness, somatic awareness, of asking the question and reflecting inwardly. Another great way of doing this practice of awareness is to review your days from evening to morning. So, for instance, when somebody's doing, let's say, like a microdosing protocol, I'll have them do like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday type deal, right? 3 days a week where they're using a small dose of the sacrament. And then on the days that they don't do it, I literally tell them, pretend that you're taking it, but what you're doing is you're reviewing from evening to morning the day before, like how the day went before. And the reason why I'm doing this is because if they can keep being in this introspective, reflective space of looking back, what actually starts to happen is you start to see more in the future. And it's so weird because most of us, how we live our lives is from moment to moment to moment. There's no breath in between. And when we're able to do this backward reflection, it actually creates a really powerful integrative experience for us. And then it starts to become second nature where you're just able to always do this. So even when people do macro experiences, I do the same thing. But instead I have them do the opposite. I say, pretend that, you just took the sacrament again. And before even that, like all the things you had to do to get settled for the ceremony and get things situated. So I have them actually mentally play it from start to finish on how their journey went for them. And then I say, now that you finished, now go back to the beginning. And I have them do both. So it's like play it out from start to finish and then go finish to start and go backwards. And just by them doing this, they get so much insight into their spaces because literally of this, their somatic body has processed and absorbed every single thing that they experience in the journey. Now, just the conscious awareness with the protectors might have blocked it. But they experience their experience, right? It just hasn't came out fully. And that's what the integration experience is really for, is to actually unfold the fullness of it, right? And that's where the breath, the resonance, feeling with you, and movement all come together, right? And then physical touch too, right? But I'm sharing how these are like these are 5 specific practices that pair with these 5 channels of awareness and how we're dealing with our parts, right? And I'll give an example. Right before ceremony, it's normal to have anxiousness and to feel nervous and right things like that. And we don't really do anything unless their nerves get down to a level 2. From 1 to 10, we don't do anything until they get down to a 2. And some people tell me, I've never been down to a 2. They're like, we're going to be here all day trying to figure that out. And it only takes us 10 to 15 minutes. And the only thing that we're doing is this right here. We're listening to that anxious part. And we maybe have a hand on the chest and they just breathe into it. I mean, sometimes they actually have a lot of fear. So then I might even just say, hey, is it okay if I put my hand on your chest? And sometimes they'll be like, yeah. And as soon as I do, boom, they bust out in tears and cry. And what happens is that the protector parts are stopping them from even leaning into the experience. So once we're able to not bypass, but listen to the protector in such a way that they drop their guard, then the exile receives healing and poof, they have a purge. And then from there, they're able to be present and go deeper into their experience, which is exactly what happened in this day, right? They were able to have a lot of joy and playfulness. They access so much freaking self-energy. Their parts didn't even know what to do because of how much self-energy was there. Right? All parts were just getting all kinds of healing on all kinds of levels. So how to use these 5 channels? Notice a part or a reaction, right? Because a reaction's a part. Check through the channels. So what emotion am I feeling? Angry, sad, anxious, panic, fear. Could be joy, could be happiness, could be compassion, right? Could be other things. What emotion am I feeling? What sensation do I notice with this emotion? It could be tightness, it could be cold, it could be hot, it could be a sense of urgency, it could be a pit in the stomach, it could be queasiness, it could be dizzy, it could be tingly, it could be electric, it could be heavy, right? It could be it could be light, it could be all kinds of things, right? So what sensation is with this emotion? And then where in my body is this sensation and emotion? Is it in my stomach? Is it in my shoulders? Is it in the head? Is it in the throat? Is it in the throat, head, and shoulders? Right? Where do I feel it more? Right? You're just going through the channels. How long has it been there? Right? How long has it been there? If it had a voice, what would it say right now? If this was a part, how old is it in this moment? How old does it think I am in this moment? Which is another clever way of fishing out age for those of us who struggle with how long we're dealing with, how old something is. You could ask this energy, this emotion or sensation, you can ask it, how old do you think I am? Right? If you're using the imagination channel. And if it says, oh, I think you're 12, then this part is 12. If it thinks whatever it thinks you're the age of, that's the age that it is. And then boom, you just got more insight. Right? And then you just stay with whatever arises with the self-energy, being curious, compassionate, right? All of the 5 P's, all the P's and the C's. And then we're learning to respond, not react. We're learning to relate to these parts, not fix them. And then this is where the integration and deeper trust literally just unfolds before us. And why that's so is because let's go into some of the burdens that these parts are carrying, right? So the part is not the problem because every part began with a positive intention. This is so key to remember because we want to judge these parts so freaking badly because that's a part. The part that judges parts is a part. Right? And then that part doesn't actually feel like it's doing a good job because that's another part that might be judging it for not doing a good job at being a good part. right? It gets pretty cool on seeing how all these parts kind of come together. But every part that has a positive intention also is just trying to help, and every part adapted to something. So some kind of environment or some kind of situation where these parts had to become burdened, right? And then these are all the burdens, the examples of shame, something is wrong with me, right? Which shame is something's wrong with me. Guilt is I did something bad, right? So shame and guilt, one's about your identity, one's about like an action, right?
Do the parts do they come are they with you? Do they come as you grow up, or are they with you from when you were born from maybe karma or different things that happen, that way, or is it
They do not grow up unless self nurtures them. Yep. And they stay wounded based off when they were created. Some of these parts and burdens, they call these are just some burdens, but there's something called the legacy burden. Those come through intergenerational passings, through karma, 100%. Yep.
okay?
But
Because
what
I
happens with the intergenerational trauma in the karma, it actually what happens is it creates an event in your life where then this part gets created. And then it carries out that same karmic tether.
um, yeah,
So, for
because
instance,
yeah.
some things that and this is actually the same with demons, by the way, too. If we feel like demons are chasing us or we have demons or whatever we're dealing with, sometimes it's another life that we created the demon and then maybe we try to like get rid of it and go away, but then in the next life we have the same facing with the demon and the demon's like, I don't understand why you're trying to get rid of me. You literally created me, right? And it's like, what the heck, dude? Like, this is our karmic debt. Like, what are you doing? And then when people are just like, exercise it, get rid of it, right? And that's what we're really learning how to do is to redeem these things that we've done consciously, unconsciously, subconsciously, like however they form doesn't really matter. Just what matters is how we access self energy to heal them.
They're not supposed to get rid of the demon.
It depends on the situation,
Mm,
but typically people who try to get rid of things that they need to embrace, it doesn't work
mm.
for them. Yeah.
And I ask that because there are times where I feel a part of me that she's very hurting, and I'm like, what are you hurting from? Sometimes I feel like it's not from now; it's from something a while ago. Not even I don't know if if it was this lifetime. That's how sometimes I feel it's distant. That's why I was asking.
Well, it's definitely good to a good space to explore. So I think it's a great question.
Yeah.
So other examples of burdens are worthlessness, where you say I don't matter; fear, the world isn't safe; rejection, nobody wants me; guilt, everything is my fault; anger, I have to protect myself; helplessness, I can't do this. Some people, even with helplessness, I would even say that that's a learned helplessness because we're not innately operated in that way. That's something that's usually conditioned through an experience where we didn't have power or power was used over us. And then we have this learned helplessness or hopelessness. But the idea of the burden parts is that they feel heavy, they feel protective, they feel reactive, they feel exhausted. But an unburdened part feels relaxed, feels connected, feels open, is self led, and feels free. So the burden is not the part is not self, but self can heal the part, release the burden. And that's really what we're doing. And that's where I was sharing with you, Tanya, that those burdens, wherever they showed up in our lives, the part is shaped by the burden. Whether it's this life or a past life, it actually doesn't matter, which is what those legacy burdens are about, right? Because usually we pick that up from someone else and then we create a part around it. And then the part begins organizing its life around that burden. So I love using the analogy of having the pebble in your shoe, right? Because that's kind of what's going on. We like organize, if we have a pebble in the shoe, instead of stopping and just dumping the pebble out of our shoe, we organize the way we walk around it. We organize everything around that pain of the pebble in our shoe until we're able to stop and then dump it out. So we might even put like insoles into our shoe because we might think it gives us extra cushion, or right, whatever it is. Like we will do all the things to kind of just manage the pain and to be with the to let the pain linger instead of just removing the source of it, which are these burdens. And then the managers protect it, like we said, and the firefighters react to it. And then the whole system just keeps revolving around this burden. So we're not eliminating parts, we're unburdening them, right? And healing is helping the part to release the burden. So that's why we're saying we're never getting rid of these parts, we're never fighting with these parts, and we're never shaming the parts. We're just understanding the burden, we're witnessing the burden, and then we're helping the burden release. So the burden's not who you are, and it's not who the part is either. Sometimes we believe we're the burden, or a part of us believes that we're a burden. Actually, many people say that. I don't want to reach out to you. I feel like I'm a burden. Even I say, reach out to me. We're here for you. Oh, I didn't reach out because I know I needed you, but I just didn't want to be like a burden. And I'm just like, you realize you were being a burden by not reaching out? They're like, no, I never thought of it like that. It's like, well, I felt that you needed support, so I felt burdened by it, you know? All right, questions about this part, the parts that carry burdens? So we're actually going to go into the legacy burdens if no questions. And this is actually a key part too, because what we'll start to explore with these parts is that not everything you carry is yours. Right? So we'll see some burdens come from our own experience, and then some burdens come from experiences that happened long before we were born. And this is both the things that are passed through our parents, and it's also the karmic stuff that's passed within our soul, which we say in the astral body, right? The collections of the astral bodies, like your storehouse memory of all incarnations. So that might also be passed through that as well. And these legacy burdens, they show up through our family systems, like the family we grew up with, or whether we were adopted, which was kind of my situation, where I have the nature of my blood family, and then I have the nurture of my adopted family, and I have burdens coming from both, right? Both legacy burdens, both burdens come from both places. That some are mine, and some have nothing to do with me, right? And some come from different cultures. Some come from our religion, some come from institutions, from war. War is actually a lot of what's being exploited now, especially since World War One. A lot of our families pretty much have been in these wars for a long time, and we're dealing with like the aftermaths of it. And that's where a lot of our poverty comes from, the traumas come from, right? All of these things are these legacy burdens that are passed down through our what's called folk spirit, the traumas that your parents and your parents' parents and your parents' parents' parents went through, but then also the historical things that were going on around situations, right? That where we migrated from and kind of moved from one place to another place. All of these were like in a collection of different burdens that we put into our backpacks. Okay, questions before I keep going on to the next. I guess I'm going to read the next side of it. I just want to see if anyone had anything questions or anything they wanted to add. So sometimes we carry stories that are not ours, and these stories look like the world isn't safe. People can't be trusted. We always struggle. I have to carry everything alone. I don't belong. I'm not from this universe. That's another one I hear a lot. I even had someone say, women can't be trusted, right? And this was something that was passed down from his father, that you can't trust women, right? What are some legacy burdens, the stories that you guys might have or that you've heard? What are some that you know about? They usually start off because of a survival strategy, but they definitely keep persisting way after the danger's passed. So, like, if anyone's had like an abusive relationship, for instance, I'm sure there's some stories that linger about that, right?
This might not be the right thing, but I remember when my grandfather died, the two sons inherited everything, and the daughters got left with nothing, and that was because women weren't worth it. And they had to go to court and everything to try to get some of the estate back. But it was a simple sexist decision. The boys take over, you girls step aside. That was really traumatic for my mum.
Thanks for sharing. Anybody else want to share a legacy burden that you've heard or that you're carrying, or maybe you know someone else is carrying? So some other examples that a child might inherit: fear without knowing why, which I know tons of people that are afraid of snakes and spiders, and they've never had an experience with a snake or a spider to be afraid of it. Shame without understanding its source. That tends to be a really common one. Hypervigilance without experiencing the original danger. Scarcity despite having enough, which this might also be like an unworthiness conversation, right? And I know a lot of people who can afford stuff and they still don't spend spend the money to take care of themselves, even though they have the money to take care of themselves, right? But it kind of hits into this scarcity of themselves. A distrust despite never being betrayed. And what's important to know is that these legacy burdens are not personal failures, right? They're just adaptations that we inherited. And what is inherited can be transformed. And this is the most important part, because I think a lot of us feel doomed in these spaces and we don't really understand that with awareness, we can redeem these things. And that's essentially what we're starting to learn, is that awareness is half the battle of I can see what I've been carrying. And then the other half is to take action and releasing and unburdening what we're carrying, right? And then like really like bringing the light to it in a sense. And something you can ask yourself when you're unburdening these parts and you're being with these burdens, you can ask, did this begin with me? Or am I carrying something older than myself? And sometimes these parts might share with you, oh, this has been happening forever. Oh, this has been going on for 1 billion years, right? So if that's something that shows up, you can definitely tell, okay, these are legacy burdens. These have been going on for a very long time. And then what's cool about these legacy burdens is that we're not only healing for ourselves, that we heal for those who came before us and those who come after us. And they say this healing ripples out 7 generations in the past and 7 generations in the future. And it doesn't matter whether you have kids, you're going to have kids, or you don't have any kids. This healing ripples out for all humanity. And that's what we call like our folk spirit. So like the traditions or the tribes that we come from, they all receive this healing, whether we're in direct communication with them or connection with them or not. Okay,
Yeah,
I mean, we're coming up
that's
to our
really,
time.
that's amazing, Dylan. It's funny
Anybody?
actually. Georgia always says to me, Mum, when you signed your soul contract, you accidentally put my name on the bottom of it.
That's good.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
There's a couple of slides that we didn't get to, and uh, we'll definitely cover them next week. And I also have some experiential things that you guys can do. Uh, I'm open whether you maybe I'll just send you guys this whole document sheet, and you can just check it out and have it. Um, but the instructions are actually really easy. They're right here at the bottom. And they're how to find parts in the body, how to identify if they have burdens, and then what burdens they are, right? And then you can see if it's a protector part or a vulnerable part. The vulnerable part obviously is the exile, and then the protector parts are the managers and firefighters. And again, I'll make sure you guys have this so you can go through these yourself, but making sure that you're lying down, and then you can bring your awareness, or sitting up, and you can bring your awareness to the body. You focus on the place of your body where your sensations are at, right? So wherever you're noticing them the most. And as you stay with the sensation, you can see if there's any words that goes with it, like if it wants to say anything, or if it needs anything, right? You can see if there's an emotion that's with that sensation. What is it feeling? And then if these experiences or sensations uh, of your emotions, if they can lead to a part, if they have a way that they can lead you to a part, or if this part wants you to see it. This is actually a really crucial thing, that most of these parts want to be seen, and some of these parts are afraid to be seen, but they still reveal themselves, right? So if you're able to start seeing them, you might want to know its age, its gender, where it is. So it might show you an image of a past place that you know about, or it might show you an image of something that you don't know about, right? And it could be like, I've had some parts literally in hell, and I was like, "Where are you?" And they'll show me this like hell, I don't know, like Dungeons and Dragon basement that it was just kind of in, and it was like it had these like guards like holding it hostage, you know. And I was just like, "Dude, that place sounds horrible." I'm like, "Where would you want to go instead?" And he was just like, "Dude, a beach sounds nice." And I just like, "Well, jump on my back. Let's get the fuck out of here." And I took him to the beach, and he never went back to that space. I haven't been dealing with the stuff that came up with that part being in that place. Right? I didn't look for scary monsters. I didn't become fearful about things like I used to. Right? So there's a lot of cool things that you guys can do around this practice here. That as you keep going through, it keeps walking you through various practices.
What is the controlling part? Getting where's that when you're the controlling part of it, like that part that's controlling. Where does that fall under?
Well, if it's a controlling part, do you feel like it's a vulnerable part, or do you feel like it's a protector part?
Um, maybe maybe both. Is that possible?
It's definitely one. So being
Oh,
control is like a protecting strategy, right?
okay. Well, how about if my son is being a little disrespectful? Like I told him not to eat his food in his room, and he's just not listening. And I'm trying to tell him, like, there's boundaries, and now I'm feeling like I'm controlling, almost getting controlling, but I don't know.
Well, it could be multiple things, because reinforcing boundaries is an amazing thing. So that doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily mean that because you set a boundary that you're controlling, but maybe how you're going about it, there could be a sense of control,
Mm.
right? So then you could see, well, this part that feels like it's in a sense of control, if it could track, like, what's the part that's feeling hurt about the boundaries being breached,
Oh.
right? Because that's really what the control is about, is that it's trying to prevent pain, right? So there's a part that feels hurt around the boundaries that this manager part is like, oh no, this isn't happening.
Like not being seen or heard, maybe? Or
Okay, yeah, perhaps. So now, okay, beautiful. So if you could see not being seen or heard, if you were to imagine that you are seeing and hearing that part, what would happen?
calmness, like I get calm and it kind
So
of not.
control goes out the window, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Managers relax when self enters in every single time.
yeah.
Yeah. And then
Okay.
it might
Could it
not
also
really be.
be,
Mhm.
sorry, I was going to say, could if Tanya had feelings of guilt or shame around putting those boundaries in, isn't that going to
Uh-huh.
affect how she receives it back?
That is totally a manager protective part. Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I
And
do.
there might be some of that. There might be some of those parts that are,
Hmm.
making you feel bad for putting up boundaries because maybe boundaries weren't good back in the day, right? And that part is hurt from where the boundaries weren't good back in the day. So then
Hmm.
it came out with all these protectors to kind of protect that part, right? And now that you're practicing boundaries and it's not being respected, boom, that part's getting activated. Manager's like, no, it's not. You're not getting activated. And firefighters like, stop this. We got to dissociate. Pretend it didn't happen.
That's all that's happening. It was just like before, it
Right?
was all like before, and I was like, and I'm like, because I made dinner and I left it on the table, and he brings it in his room, and I'm like, I told you not to do that. Like, eat at the table, please. It's a tiny place, and he closed the door, and he didn't like really respond. And then in my head, I'm like, I'm not making dinner for you anymore, or I said it out loud, and I felt like that was controlling, or I'm like, kind of, I didn't want to lay that on that, but I was annoyed.
But that's actually another boundary, right? Okay, you breach my external boundary, my internal boundary, I don't make food for you.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually healthy.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
a healthy thing. If
Yeah.
someone breaches your external
That's not
boundaries,
controlling.
don't eat in the room, and then you create an internal boundary, fine, I won't make you food. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's actually what that's setting healthy boundaries.
Okay, good. Because I thought I was being a little controlled because it just like literally happened 20 minutes ago. And I was like, okay, now then I grabbed the whole,
And
but then, yeah.
also, Tanya, you're a mother. You're allowed to be annoyed because your son's being a dick.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, there's
And
Doesn't
nothing bad and
say
wrong
anything
about these
about
parts.
you. Oh, yeah,
Yeah, there's
yeah.
nothing bad and wrong about these parts. Now the question comes down to the strategies that they use. Is it effective for the relationship you want to build and the dynamics you want to build? That's really where it comes down because you're right, you can totally feel annoyed because someone broke boundaries and right, maybe that's what you want your part to be doing. If someone breaches my boundaries, you let me know, you indicate it and share with me so I could be annoyed about it, right? It's
exactly.
definitely an okay thing. I get annoyed when people don't show up and do work. And I had someone try to coach me and share with me, oh, well, maybe you should, shift that a little bit. And I'm like, I don't have any issues that I'm upset with people because they don't show up for themselves. Like
Mm,
I want them to know that I'm upset with them and I feel frustrated because they want things in their lives and they're not showing up for themselves. I want them to feel that for me actually. I think that's a healthy thing to feel because it's going to get them to show up differently. It's going to show them how to, oh yeah, maybe I do need to put more emphasis on this, which is usually what actually happens,
so true.
right?
And
Now,
then
now, now, is that a great strategy for everybody? No, there's some people that might never show up because I do that, right?
mm,
So then I might see, oh, well, what is it that their part needs in order for me to show up in a way that they can actually show up, right? Because I'm not going to have that strategy for every single person,
mhm.
right? But some people I might have that strategy with, right? Because it's effective and it works. But it might not work with my wife, for instance. I might have to do a different strategy.
No, it's so true because my two sons are so different too. Like I have to do a different strategy with the older one versus the younger one because completely different. Um, and then I got annoyed, and then one of my parts was craving potato chips, which I haven't had in a while, so I caved into it.
That's so cute.
I was like, these are so good. As I was listening to you, I had to turn the microphone off because I didn't want to chew, but it was so good.
That's
I was like
awesome.
giving into my part. I'm like, you can have those chips. Don't worry. It's really
Yeah.
good.
Which part is that you're giving into? Which part is it? Is it
It's
a is
the
it is it a protector or is it a vulnerable part?
maybe a vulnerable part that was craving salt and vinegar chips, and I just went through the whole bag.
Yeah, that's a firefighter part.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And the reason why that is because it's trying to stop, it's trying to extinguish the pain that it's feeling around the boundaries being breached and then the control,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's how you can tell it's a firefighter part because it's trying to get you out of the pain. So the salt and vinegar chips
Mm.
is to get you it's to escape out of the pain.
Okay, that's what it is. Yes. And it's helping a little bit until I'm full.
Until you remember the activation again and poof, it comes right
I
back
know.
up, right? And that's where I'm sharing, like, there's nothing bad and wrong about these parts. We can have so much fun and playfulness and curiosity as we get to know them and explore with them. And then we can realize, hey, this strategy is not working. Is there something else that we would like to do instead? And you can literally start to have new roles with them. So, for instance, when people used to share with me an opposing belief or an opposing idea from what I would say, I would immediately take this as an attack. I would get defensive and I would shut their idea down.
Mm.
And this is just a really powerful protector part of me that, right, I used to be bullied by people much larger than me. So I developed an intellectual wittiness to essentially destroy people's psyche, right?
Mm.
And this was just a protection because obviously I'm not going to beat them by force and brute force like they're bigger than me, right? So I had to psychologically like break down my bullies, if you will, right? And these are just my protector parts that we're doing this. So now when I'm in an educational space where I'm not in any threat, these protectors will see that I'm in a threat because someone has an opposing idea to me. So
Mm.
now instead of this protector doing this, I worked so much with it. And I said, dude, you realize you're just creating more conflicts, right? You're not actually protecting anything. And what I have them now to be a protector of is diplomacy. So instead of protecting the ideas from coming in where I feel like I have to be at war with it, now I've coached this part to be a protector of diplomacy. So now I have to take in all different information and then keep the harmony. That's its role now. Is not to create conflict. It's to be a protector of this harmony where we can have opposing ideas, but we're still being diplomatic. We're still like, oh wow, thank you so much for sharing your perspective.
Like agreeing to disagree or something? Like,
It's not agreeing to disagree because I might disagree with somebody, but I'm not going to go to war with them.
okay.
And I'll be honest with people and why. And it's so crazy because I have some clients that really just want me to confirm their worldview, and I just won't. This part of me maybe used to, it was a people pleaser and would, but now it's just like, no, I'm not. This is just how I feel about it. And you can see they're trying to persuade me to have me believe what they believe. And old me would attack them and think that they're doing something bad and wrong. And now that I've had this new relationship with my protector part, they're just like, oh, that's cute, you know. They're trying to convince me. Oh, I remember I used to do that too, right? Because that was my strategy as well. I'll do the same thing, really, to be certain in a world that this exile part was uncertain and was wounded because of,
Mm.
right? So like even exploring the unknown, this part of me, this wounded part wouldn't be open to that, and it had all this protection around it, right? And then as I worked with the protectors, I got to the exile. Now I'm like always throwing myself in the unknown, right? And I don't have that same reaction that I used to.
Oh,
And we're
amazing.
all doing this in our own ways, right? Everyone here who's received healing, you probably have your own story about how you healed in exile, and now the protector parts are doing something different.
Absolutely. I remember a few, how I healed some of the exiles, like the past couple of years. I've seen myself do that a little bit where I would also normally argue with someone back and forth about something, and then I was like, nah, nah, I'd rather not.
Yeah, now I can protect my peace.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't have to protect my position anymore. I can protect my peace.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
Even my sister yesterday was like, who are you? Because she was about like a friend I'm talking about and someone who I miss a little bit and he was in my life, but not as much, but good reasons or whatever. And she was like, I would be so angry or blah, blah, blah. I was like, why? It's okay. People have to do what they have to do. And she's like, I can't, who are you? She's like, I don't know how you're just like, it's okay. I'm like, because it is. Yeah, I'm not, not forcing anything. I'm letting it be and letting it unfold. And yeah, it was cool.
I love that.
That's fantastic.
It was cool to feel that way. I said I went through the
We
pain
are not
already.
riding at dawn, and put your pitchforks away. It's all good. Chill out.
Yeah, I told her I went through pain. I went through this.
Chill pill.
Yeah, I'm done with it. It's a good. I love that chill pill. I remember that. Yeah.
Thank you,
Uh,
Dylan. That's a wonderful lesson.
yeah, you're so welcome. I'm gonna make sure you guys have the information. I'll make sure Heather posts it for you guys since I can't
That's your
access WhatsApp.
Dropbox?
Um, I'm gonna put it onto the document
No.
sheet and then have her send
Okay.
it in the WhatsApp.
Thanks, Heather.
And then for you, Michael, because I don't know if you're in that chat, I'm just sending it to you
Got it,
personally.
dudes.
Okay,
So I'm texting it to you.
that sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, and then next week we'll go a little bit deeper into the model. We'll keep expanding. We might talk about the other parts of ourselves, which are they call guides and UBs, unburdened attachments, which is a really interesting thing because I was mentioning about demons earlier, and that's what the IFS model would call an unburdened attachment, right? These UBs they call them. And what's so fascinating about these UBs, I'll just share before we go, is that if you ask it, are you a part? It will literally say no. And if you ask it, are you here to protect the self? It will literally say no. Parts always say yes. And this is partly the model that they use where, again, they wouldn't call it an entity because that's a spirit language. So they call them unburdened attachments, which is the same freaking thing, just a different term because they're trying to facilitate it in a medical model. And then they have these other thing called guides. And if you ask it, are you a part? It will say, no, I'm a guide. And it'll literally tell you what kind of guide it is and all this stuff. So there's like these other parts in our internal family system that we'll connect with next week. And yeah, if you guys have questions, reach out. Let me know how the instructions go for you. If you get stuck on a step or you need help with anything, feel free to message me. I'm here for you guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Dylan.
Yeah, you're so
And
welcome.
now I have to wait. The waiting begins.
The whole week.
I know, I can't deal. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Have a great night. Shalom, shalom.